Hello, this is Donnie Smith, and welcome to the new world that we live in today, the digital world. So, hope all is doing well out there. Hope everybody's been safe and staying inside and being safe and everything. So, I'm going to pick up on the paint and refinish on this video series. I had started a video series, and it was mainly intended for ASE to pass the ASE test, but I'm going to continue that series where I stopped off because this would also be good training for students. So again, these are kind of just real quick with videos. Well, not quick, but they're not fancy by no means. I haven't had a lot of time to prep for them. I'm still working at the college trying to get everything completed and done there and ready for my students. And it's been a mess. It's been a lot of work. Trying to get all this done in time. So I do got some stuff together, and tonight we are going to talk about ASE topics and the preps, paint and refinish prep. We are going to talk about 714, which is block sand area to which primer surface has been applied. 715, dry sand area to which finished filler has been applied. 716, remove dust from area to be refinished, including cracks and moldings of adjacent areas. And 717, clean the area to be refinished using a final cleaning solution. And 18, remove with tack rag and dust or to any dust, lint, particles from the refinish area. So anyway, we're just going to talk about block sanding it, final sanding it, and getting it ready for paint. That's basically the steps we're going to talk about, but it covers those topics in the ASE area if you're looking for those areas. Let me get back over to this screen now. So the first thing you want to do before you start sanding, you've got it primed. You probably already have it masked off, so you'll be okay. But just in case, your adjacent panels, where any of those are at, moldings, anything that's not to be sanded, you want to be sure and protect that. So you may have to put a couple of layers of 1.5 inch or 2 inch masking tape on it to protect that or something, because if you just barely bump it with sandpaper or a DA, now you're painting the next panel as well. So you want to be sure and protect your adjacent panels. The first thing you need to do whenever you go to do it is you're going to need guide coat. And they got a couple of kinds of guide coat. And again, like I said, I didn't have a whole lot of time to do a lot of prepping for this today. In the future, I hope to, have more time to do this, but this is just kind of a quick, very short time to prepare for these videos. But there's two types of guide coat. You've got a spray, something like this, and then you've got a dry powder. And a lot of people are starting to like this one a lot better, especially for the dry sanding. But I'm going to go ahead and spray this panel. And I've got on here just a small panel, and it's what I could get, for the moment, just to work on this. But I do have road on here, just so you know. Block sanding. Let me get it up here where you can see it a little better. Whenever you're block sanding, you're usually going to use like 220 or 320. The lights in that. If I did my body work and I know it's perfect, I know it just needed some primer to sand out, I might skip the 220 and go ahead and go to 320. But if I think there's a chance I may have to prime again, I'm going to use the less effort to sand it, go with a coarser grit and sand it with 220 and then prime again if I need to. You could also sand it with 220, looks good. Then you could go over it with 320 and then final sand it with 400 to 600. We usually use 500. So final sanding is getting it ready for the surface or for the paint, primer, sealer, and paint. And that's usually between 400 and 600. Some of the waterborne, people with waterborne have started going maybe even up to 800, a little bit finer. So that's what that is. But let's go ahead and show you how to guide coat these two so that can be drying while I talk about the rest of the stuff. So I'm going to spray half of it. I don't know if you can hear me when I turn around. I'm going to spray half of it with this. And what we're doing, we're just putting a contrasting color on there so that you can see it well. So if that was black, this obviously wouldn't be a good color to choose for a guide coat. And the dry, go like that. And you just rub it on there. Okay, so that's basically the two. I got to remember to quit looking away when I'm talking. That's basically the two types of guide coats that we have. Now we're going to talk about block sanding, because that's what that is. In the last video in this series, we have applied primer surfacer, or maybe called primer filler, but that's just a thick primer that goes on top of feather edged areas where you did your body work, and have maybe body filler and things like that. So it's going to fill small imperfections, like your 180 grit scratches or whatever you finished your body filler out with. And sometimes there might be some tiny little pinholes that will help fill in. So anyway, that's the reason that we put primer surfacer, is to fill small imperfections. And how we're going to level that out is with blocks. Anytime you are block sanding, you do want to have your proper PPE. You want some safety glasses. This works real good. Your respirator, these convert to these filters. If you have one of these type of respirators, that works real good for sanding and dust and things like that. And then you also have if you can't get one of those, you can get these type of filters as well. But you don't want to be breathing in all of that dust and getting your lungs full of dust like that. Like at the school, we also have a vacuum system that hooks up to the tools, and that helps a lot. Of course, hand sanding, it's not going to, and that's what we do a lot of blocking by hand. So whenever you're selecting a block, a couple of them fell down here. Let me get them. You kind of want to get a block that fits the surface that you're sanding. For example, if it's a concave area, you're going to want something that's going to be able to sand down in there. And these round blocks work real well with a lot of areas. So if you're working on something that's curved, it's going to work well for that. They've got different ones like this, for smaller areas. But generally what you want to do is you want to get the largest block you can for the area you're working on. Now, I know in a lot of new cars, there's not a lot of flat areas, so sometimes you can't use a real big block. But you do want to use a bigger block. Bigger is better, because if you got some small waves in the panel and you're using a small block like this, that could possibly follow that wave, and you'd never know that that wave was there, because it's just kind of following that. And that's why if you get a larger block, and I like these motor guard blocks, they have a real good assortment here, and they have some really long ones, especially like you're doing hoods, different sizes here. You got them that length there. And what we're using here, you can get different styles too. This is the Hook It, where it uses the Velcro paper. You can also get them where they're just smooth on there, and if you're using Stick It paper, where it sticks on. So that's a couple different kinds. But I've got this motor guard block here, and it's a real long one. And this panel, it's pretty long. If that was actually a primer spot on a car, if it was that big, that's a pretty big area that you're blocking. And of course, this is flat. And like I said, not everything on a car is just flat like that. So just kind of pick the block that fits the best. But when you're blocking with something like this, and there might be just a small wave or a ripple or something, this goes across the whole area and helps level it out so that it gets rid of any of those waves or anything like that. So that's a little about the blocks. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way. So I've got some 220 on here. Like I said, if you did your body work and you're just going to have to lightly sand it to get it ready, you might consider jumping straight to 320. But what you want to do whenever you're block sanding, and this is very important, I see this mistake a lot, is you want to cross sand it. You want to come different directions at it, because if you're just going one direction, it might follow a wave or something and not really be cutting and getting really level. And that goes for all of it. But if you'll remember to cross sand, it helps feather your edges of body filler better in. And really, it's just you need in every step of this needs to follow that cross sanding. And I'll do a quick demonstration. And like I said, this is just something quick I had, a little panel I had to bring in here to show you. And another question that I get, let me get closer to the speaker. Another question I get a lot was, how much do I sand? Well, if you're using guide coat, you sand the guide coat off and you didn't sand through, that's, you know, that's enough. So you don't need to keep sanding. I've seen where people prime and then they sand until they almost sand all the primer back off, you know, and you're hitting all this metal. That's necessarily not what you want. The ideal is to have it all sanded and actually not had sanded through and hit any metal again, but all the guide coat be gone. You know, that's a nice level surface and you still got some primer on there. So I'm just going to do a quick demonstration of the cross sanding technique, where I'm going to sand at about 30 degrees this way. Then I'm going to cross it and go this way. Because I'm going a little bit slow, just to kind of show you. You know, this is probably about how I do it. But by doing this, of course, you get your edges down here. And that's what you want to see. You want to see that smooth area that does not have any guide coat on it. Now, another big issue or problem that I see is the objective is not really to remove the guide coat. I mean, you do want to sand it off, but I've seen it to where like there's a little spot, you see them scratches right there, and you're thinking, well, it's not sanding out, and then you tilt your block. Well, that just defeats the purpose of the guide coat. You've just basically dug that out, and now you've dug a low into it. So if you're sanding and you start sanding through and there's metal, but you still see some guide coat right there, that means there's a problem. And if you're sanding metal, you probably need to stop, and there might be a couple options you have to do with that area. You may have to put a little glaze putty on it. I think they're calling it finish filler or something like that, but you may have to put some glaze coat on that, glaze putty, and re-block that out. And I usually, if I put putty, I will usually re-prime that spot with primer surfacer, not the whole panel. If there's just a spot right here, I would just prime that spot and then sand that, block that out one more time. That's how I do it. But anyway, we get it all sanded out, and once we have it looking all like this, no guide coat, no metal showing through, you know, it's ready to be shipped over and get ready for paint. Well, after blocking, you do want to final sand it. So like the remaining parts that aren't primed, you're going to final sand with anywhere between 400 and 600. We usually use 500, but anywhere between 4 and 6, you know, is the range for getting something ready for paint. So you would want to sand your surrounding areas with 400 to 600. Where you blocked, if it was blocked with 220, you'd want to go ahead and block it out with 320 just to minimize those 220 grit scratches. And then you can come back with 500 and go over the entire panel that you're painting, if you're painting the entire panel. So, and then everything's sanded with 400 to 600, somewhere in that range. Again, that's a range. It don't have to be, you know, it's just opinions, you know, of what they like. Some shops may, you know, go with 400 because it's a little more aggressive, get it done a little faster. Or, you know, some may go with 600. You know, it's going to get a little smoother, but it's going to take a little bit longer. Now, we're not going to get into talking about blending or clear coat only in this video. This is more about just priming and blocking your primer. So that's kind of the steps you take for that. Now, another thing I want to talk about, which I see a lot, and this will drive some shops crazy if you go in the shop and start doing this, and some of these body shops, you know, it's a quick way to make them mad, you know, especially if you got a big area that you've been, and I'm talking with body filler, primer surfacer, or whatever. I mean, you're sanding and creating a lot of dust if you're not using one of those vacuum systems. And what you don't want to do, don't get the air hose, you know, with the air nozzle on there and hit that thing and just blow that dust everywhere. I mean, that just gets that dust everywhere. It gets in the shop. It gets in places you can't clean, and it just makes a big mess. And plus, now you got your dust over there where everybody else is breathing it too. There's a couple things you can do. If you got a lot of dust, like on a hood or something, just sitting there, get you a dustpan and dust broom, you know, just one of those small hand brooms, and broom it off into that dustpan and throw it in the trash. You know, that way you're not trying to blow that all around. Or you can, if you got a vacuum system or a vac nearby, you can vacuum it up. But try not to blow all that body filler dust or primer dust, and blow it all in the shop. And plus, remember, we are, a paint shop. So the cleaner we can keep the shop environment, the cleaner the paint jobs, the healthier it's going to be for us as well. So just keep that in mind. So anyway, we're going to clean that off with a brush or vacuum or whatever. And then once it's clean, then you can blow it off. There's still going to be a little bit of dirt, but you're not going to have that big cloud of dust flying around everywhere. So you can do that. And now what I usually do after I've got it all sanded and ready to go in the paint booth, I will go and wash it one more time, just to make sure all the dust and dirt and contaminants of any sort are off. I mean, I've already washed it before I started to get contaminants off, but I'm going to wash it one more time. Now, what you really want to pay attention to is what a lot of people don't think about is the areas you're going to be masking to. So like a lot of times up on the back side of the wheel well, where you're going to back mask, you back mask on that back side. A lot of times that is so dirty, but it's never cleaned. So be sure that you do clean those type of areas. I mean, you want to use a different rag, different mitt or whatever. You don't want to get all that dirt in there. But make sure anywhere you're going to be taping, the jambs, the wheel wells, the back side of the wheel wells, door jambs, hood trunk, make sure you wash all that and it's nice and clean. And then whenever you pull it in the booth, you wash it and it dries. Let me turn this off. I don't know. Sorry about that. But then, you're going to get it in the booth. And that's the first thing I'll usually do once it's in the booth. If you're masking in the booth, some places will do partial the masking outside. But you're going to wipe it down with wax and grease remover, get all the contaminants off. And what I'll usually do is go with the wax and grease remover and wipe all those areas behind the wheel wells, that flange, door jambs, and all that where I'm going to be taping. Because if you don't, your tape's really not going to stick, and it's going to come loose, and then you're going to get paint in there, and it's going to be a sloppy looking job. So be sure and clean those areas real well. And then I usually, whenever I'm masking, I do not wear gloves. It's just, maybe some people can, but the tape always sticks to my gloves, and I just have a mess with it. I can't really use gloves myself when I'm masking. So I'll get the car all masked off, and now I have handprints on the car. So I will go over it one more time, with wax and grease remover. And what PPG recommends is using the solvent, their solvent type wax and grease remover, followed by the waterborne, because they help remove different things. I think the waterborne helps more with the fingerprints and things like that. So I wipe them down with both. And then it's time for the tack rag. Once you got it nice, clean, you've got it wiped down with the solvents, you don't have no contamination on it, and it's masked off in the booth. Now you can go ahead and get a tack rag, depending on what system you're using. The waterborne tack rags, usually you have to stretch out a little bit. Like the crystal tack rags that are real sticky, those you just kind of pull out, wad together, and go over it. Now remember, with the tack rag, you're just kind of lightly pushing down, letting the weight of the rag do the work. I really don't like pushing down too hard with tack rags. Sometimes you can transfer some of that glue to the surface, and that can cause some problems. So whenever you tack something, tack really, really lightly, and you go over the whole car, and then then you're ready to start your spraying process. We'll start with primer sealer, base coat, and clear coat, and that will get into some of these other tasks, which we'll be going over in other videos. So basically that covered the tasks that we talked about in this, that we said we was going to cover, and that covers surface preparation 714 through 718, and that's the ASE NATEV tasks. So hopefully this was helpful for you if you're in this area, and we're going to get through this. And I've been getting some good responses from other people, about trying to help students that are at home, with videos like this. I've talked to some shops. I'm actually, I'm not going to be able to get into my school when we're all going to be locked out. But I have talked to some shops where I'm going to go video some glass replacement, and a few of my students can go and we can watch that. But I'm going to video it so that I can help everybody see how to remove a windshield, a glued-in windshield, how they do that and put that in. That is one thing we did not get to. We did regulators, side glass, but we did not get to the glued in windshields, and we didn't get to some of the structural frame pulls and stuff like that. So I'm going to go to some of the shops. Hopefully they'll be doing some frame pulls or measuring something. I mean, it may be a different system. We use the Shark system, which is ultrasonic, kind of works off sound. They also have measuring systems that work off lasers. So there's a variety of things out there, but hopefully I can get you some videos with some of the different types of frame racks, frame benches, different types of measuring systems, and some different topics like that. I've got that lined up. I've got a collaboration video coming up with Lauren Fix, car coach. She's really, car savvy, and we're gonna. I don't know for sure what the topic is we're going to talk about. We're going to do that on Zoom. Now, that's another thing that I have to mention. I did try to do a class last night, and I was going to put it on YouTube, and it was on Zoom, and I totally messed that up. I went and watched some videos after that, so Zoom's kind of new to me. And what the problem was is I couldn't hear, the questions. With Zoom, you can actually talk back and forth to each other, but I couldn't hear them, couldn't find where to unmute them. They could hear each other and they could hear me. But anyway, we'll get that all worked out. That's just a matter of getting it worked out. But, this has been such a fast transition and so much to do. Haven't had a whole lot of time to prep and get things ready and rolling, but we will as we move forward. And Bill Bacon, an instructor, has kind of reached out to me about doing some more interactive things for you, especially for the collision repair students out there. He's talking about Kahoot, maybe doing something with that and getting some test questions out there just to kind of help you prepare for whether you're going for ASE into program test or ASE test or iCar test. This will kind of help prepare you for that. So we're going to do a call tomorrow. We're going to try to do one of those Zoom calls tomorrow to kind of see how it all work out and try to get that figured out for you. So we've got a lot of things coming your way. It's just kind of hit us fast, and we're just kind of slowly getting there, but we will try to cover different topics, paint, refinish, structural, non-structural. And like I said, like today, wasn't that good of a demonstration. Didn't have a lot of resources right here to do it, but that will get better as we go. And especially if I get some shops and start making some videos at the shops. So, okay, we do got a couple of questions here. I kind of finished on the paint and refinish surface. I mean, we pretty much finished that up. So, if that's all you was interested in, you can probably go ahead and close the video. But I'm going to answer a few questions I got here. I got Andy's Doghouse. I am like you, and I can't use gloves when masking. Too frustrating. Trying to pull your glove off. That I have tried it before. You're supposed to stay. I can't do it. I cannot mask and tape. I don't know if any of you can. If you can, let us know. But I will put that those gloves on. They stick and end up just having a big wad. So yeah, I agree with you, Andy. Let's see. I painted my truck door with hot rod black, and it was really rough. I followed the mix instructions, and it was still orange peel. That flat black is tricky, or hot rod black. It is a little bit tricky. I mean, whenever I sprayed that, I think it said to put a full wet coat. You want to get your mills, and the one that I used anyway, but you want to put your first coat on really thick, like you would a clear coat or something like that. And then that last coat you want to put on nice and even, but you don't want to put it on too thick because that's going to kind of level the sheen out. But that is a trick on that. That's hot rod black is one of the harder, that's harder to paint than the other type, because you got to get that real even, and it's, and without it striping or anything, you got to make sure your gun angles are right, your pressures are right. And that last coat, you don't want to put on too heavy. You just want to put it on nice and even. So yeah, that's something you may just have to play around with a little bit. Let's see. Peter, frame pulls and measuring. Will you really video this stuff? Great. Yeah, I plan on it. If I can find some shops, like some body shops in Wichita, and if they are pulling a frame, I would really like to, get some video of that, or setting up the measuring system, or even if they explain how the measuring system works. I mean, this is all still up in the air. They are more than, I had a good response of shops talking to me and saying they'd like to help out. It's just, they're in Wichita. There's everybody's supposed to stay in right now, and I don't know. We got to see how that goes. I mean, this would probably be a week or two before I can get there, if depending on the virus and how that's going at the time. Danny McBride, I can't use the gloves. My hands sweat. They dump water when I raise my hands. Yeah, if it's hot, I've done the same thing. Yeah, your hands get hot and sweaty. And a lot of times I'll put a coat on, and in between coats, I have to take them off and change gloves even, but especially if it's real hot like that, because yeah, they will sweat up, and you don't want that sweat rolling out of the glove and getting onto your paint job. So, um, currently working on a 71 Skylark. It will be black. In your opinion, best poly primer to use to block sand so it is laser straight? Thank you. Um, are you talking about, I know that black, is it poly or resin based? That Sherwin-Williams or Martin Senior or Acme, it's all the same thing, different label. They make a black one that kind of uh, has a shine to it. It's a primer servicer, but it does kind of have a shine. And anything that's glossy like that, you really don't even need guide coat, because you can see those glossy areas. And yeah, that black would be a great undercoat for the color, and it also would help you see any highs or lows better. So definitely, I think that would work. Either that, or if you are priming with any other color, be sure and use guide coat. A lot of people say, oh, I don't need that, that it's I can tell, but they'll miss stuff. Even people who's been doing it for years. I mean, it's a tool that's going to help you. It's going to help you identify and see a spot. And don't be afraid to use that guide coat. I use the heck out of it. And a lot of the students like the dry. I was raised using the spray. Still like that better. I can see it better. But if you use guide coat, that will really help make sure that it is straight. And like I said, if there's any problems where guide coat's still there, that means there's an issue, and you've sanded through around it, but there's still guide coat. You're either going to have to prime and block that area again, or you're going to have to add some glazing putty. Now remember, where that area has guide coat, it wasn't sanded. So be sure and scuff that area up with a little bit of 180 or something if you're going to put some putty over it. But you don't want to just put putty straight over that guide coat if it's because it hasn't been sanded well. So keep that in mind as well. But you're talking about that black. Is that made by Martin Senior or Sherwin-Williams? Because they make one, and I really like it. I don't know the name of it, but it works pretty good. Haven't used it a whole lot, but it works pretty good. And it seems like I remember, because they came and demoed it, seemed like it was a resin-based primer, a little bit different. And you put it, now I think it's kind of expensive. It's a production, for production shops, a fast dry. But I think you put 2 coats on back to back. There's no flash time in between them. You'd put a coat on, followed by another full wet coat. And I think in less than an hour, it was ready to sand. So, it's a real high production type of primer. Danny McBride says, what do you think of Eastwood products like the primers? I'm satisfied with them. We have done a couple of jobs with them, and one job in particular, they helped us out with some of the products to do the job. But we used the body fillers, guide coats, epoxy primers, surfacers, even the paint and clear. It all worked really well. I had no problems with that. I think they've got some great products. I think the only problem with their paint is I don't think that if you're trying to match something like a certain color, I don't think they mix every color. I think they've just got certain selected colors, like if you're doing a complete and you want it this color. But yeah, if you're not doing that, or you're trying to match a door or something like that, their paints, that they won't work. But other than that, I think they're very good quality products. I've had good luck with it. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to get that. Sounds great to use. Yeah. So anyway, I hopefully this video helps out with you all, especially with all the schools shut down, and now everybody's having to, I'm reading online, instructors are wondering what to do. There's a lot of resources out there. I'm just trying to give you another resource so that you can, have this as well. And I'm still learning about some resources, and I can be sharing those with you as well. And but like I say, it just hit so fast. Everybody's still trying to scramble and get ready and get it all together. So, I mean, it was kind of a fast deal. So anyway, I really do appreciate all you for watching. And if you have any questions after this video, during the replay of this video, there's always the comments down below you can ask. I know I haven't been replying real good. I've been busy, with school, but I am going to get more involved with this now, with the digital, because this is how we have to teach now here for a while. Hopefully not long. Hopefully this blows over a lot sooner than people are thinking, but we will see. So Danny says thanks. Well, thank you for watching. Anyway, I do appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, comments, leave them down below. Take care, and we will see you in the next video.